CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest.
Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. Derek Thord here.
Jarza Arlong
There he is.
joining along.
Yeah. No, I think it would be the other way around. I would be joining you because I would be in your sword.
Ooh, him. Ooh.
Not like that, you fool.
I do what I can, man. I do what I can.
Yeah. How's it going, man?
It's going well. You, dude?
Not too bad. Excited to be recording on this chapter, just mostly because we get to move on again.
Yeah.
I got to read this chapter before you, and I told you it was like we're on the edge of a knife. So I didn't have a ton of thoughts on this chapter in my sections anyways, but I'll be excited to go through it here and then be able to move on to the next chapter, because I think shit's gonna hit the fan in this in chapter 25, and I'm excited to see what's gonna happen.
I know, me too. I'm yeah. This chapter was very edgy.
Yes, it was. But anyways, it's been a few episodes, but I've got some bullshit for you.
All right.
We want to go through patrons here first?
Sure.
All right.
So, patrons in order of subscription, we've got Jan the Picker, Luciana Tregan, Ryan the Topological, Damien Face in the Rock, Nate Fiddle Me This, Shield Anvil Dylan, Calvin He Who Witnessed, Livy the Malazan Potato, Aaron Mott Irregular, Scott the Only, Graceless Passion, Dead Smell, Gestriant, My Own Genesis, Alex the High Mage, Tyler the Great Raven, The Joyful Union, Tony the Watch, Steve Bottle Kegs, and joining our chain of dogs, making 20, we've got the Mortal Sam. So welcome aboard. And for those who have been along our journey, thank you so much.
Yeah, good to have you along here with the rest of us, Sam. Sam had emailed us, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and we kind of chatted back and forth, and he decided to take advantage of the free week here, Patreon, and signed up under that as well. So thank you. We appreciate it and hope you have a good time with us.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always a blast.
Try to be. So
right. I don't think we try too hard, but just
no. Anyways, I told you I had some bullshit for you. It's been a few weeks since I've had some, but me and my family, we went to the Mall of America today.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because we live here, but the Mall of America has no, like, it doesn't really have any draw. There's no, like, it's just a big, stupid mall full of a lot of people.
Yeah.
If you have a mall in your town, it's like that, just bigger. I want to know who you think would enjoy the Mall of America, and who do you think would really hate it out of characters that we know. We don't need to make an extensive list or anything like that, but just throw a couple out.
Well, the first thought that came to me is who would hate it. And I just totally picture like Karza Orlong, right? With shopping bags, just all hunched over, like super pissed off. A giant walking through the Mall of America, just fucking pissed.
You know who I thought?
Who?
Hedrick with his ghost hands, because he can't touch anything.
He doesn't have those anymore.
Yeah, right. I know. But that's what I thought. I'll throw one who I think would love it would be Lady Envy for sure.
Oh, yeah. My mind goes to Krupp because of all of the food.
Ah, okay, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That tracks. So
yeah.
Just a dumb little thing. Yeah, like it I decided that was going to be the bullshit, like right before we hit the record button. So that's all that is.
Nice. Okay. All right.
All right. So that's out of the way. Anything else we're forgetting here before we do the epigraph?
Not that I can think of. I think we're both just excited to read on.
Yeah, true. Also, if you guys haven't already, you should check out our video, our interview that we did with the Nostalgic Dragon. We did that yesterday, right?
Yeah. No, 2 days ago, Saturday. Today is
Oh,
Monday.
yeah, it's Monday, Labor Day. Yeah. We did that Saturday, right at the end of August. It is now September 1st. It was a good time. We had a good chat with him. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And
it was.
he put that video out like half an hour after we were done talking to him.
Right. I didn't even get a chance to send him the artwork he wanted, but he figured it out.
I sent him a message with.
Oh, okay.
Graphic.
I did not know.
No worries, dude. But yeah. All right.
Sweet.
We will do the epigraph here and then we'll get started. In the oldest, most fragmentary of texts will be found obscure mention of the Erisal, a name that seems to refer to those most ancient of spirits that are the essence of the physical world. There is, of course, no empirical means of determining whether the attribution of meaning, the power inherent in making symbols of the inanimate, was causative, in essence, the creative force behind the Erisal, or if some other mysterious power was involved, inviting the accretion of meaning and significance by intelligent forms of life at some later date. In either case, what cannot be refuted is the rarely acknowledged but formidable power that exists like subterranean layers in notable features of the land, nor that such power is manifested with subtle yet profound efficacy, even so much as to twist the stride of gods. Indeed, occasionally sufficient to bring them down with finality. Preface to the Compendium of Maps, Kellar Stellus of Leahen. That was a mouthful, dude.
Yeah. Yep. Lots of words that I don't know, and I have no idea. All I can get is that there's something to the layers, some type of naturalistic force.
Sure. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of that either. It was very wordy, and if somebody wants to dumb it down, simplify it, feel free.
If you can, please no spoilers.
Right.
All right. Well, we ready to rock section 1 from chapter 24 of House of Chains?
Yeah, go for it, man.
All right. The vast shelves and ridges that had once been coral reefs were now flattened by the onslaught of wind and sand over the past millennia. The sides of them were rotted and pitted. The low ground in between them was narrow, twisting and filled with sharp-edged rubble. Gamut thought that the gods could not have picked a less suitable place for an army to camp. There seemed little choice, though, as nowhere else offered an approach onto the field of battle. It quickly became evident that when they took up their positions, it was as defensible as a lone mountain keep, which itself was a lone saving grace. Tavor's headlong approach was the cause of unease amongst the legion. He watched as soldiers in units of 100 take holding positions on various coral islands overlooking the basin. Once they were in place, they would construct from the rubble defensive barriers and low walls, followed by ramps on the south side. Captain Keneb shifted nervously next to him and said that they wouldn't try to dislodge the troops from these islands, because the adjutant intended to march them right into the enemy's lap. Gamut was not deaf to the criticisms of Keneb's words. He wished he could have said something to the man, offer assurance, but even he was unsure. There had been no sudden realization of genius during the march from Aaron, and they've essentially walked as straight as an arrow towards Shaik's oasis. Gamut thought to himself if that meant it was an intimidation or a failure of the imagination. He wondered if they were the same, or maybe just different approaches to the same thing. Now they were preparing for dawn, when they would engage with the enemy. Keneb complains the ramps will see the death of them all. Dom has made the rock smooth, and when blood starts spilling, there will be no footing, struggling uphill while arrows and sorceries rain down. Gamut said that he was not blind, and neither was the adjunct. Keneb said that it would be nice to have some reassurance of that. Gamut assured that there will be an officers' meeting tonight and another an hour before dawn. Keneb stated that the adjunct already decided the disposition of the legion. Gamut said that yes, she had, and added that she expects them to comply. Keneb growled, as she commands. Dust rose as the sappers and engineers worked on the fortification and ramps in the hot sun. The Kundral, Sethi, and Wiccans remained south of the Coral Islands. They were waiting for a road to be built so they could get in and out of the basin. Gamut figured that they would be held back as the basin wasn't big enough for horse riders. He figured that Shaik would do the same. They would be fresh to pursue fleeing Malazans. He thought to himself that the Kundral could cover that route, but the thought of Malazans riding double on Kundral horses made the fist angry. He swept the thought from his mind. Just then a messenger approached and told Gamut that the adjunct had requested his presence. They made slow passage through the army until finally they crested a low hill closest to the basin. Gamut saw the adjunct and Nil and Nether standing beside her mount. He told the messenger that he could find his way from there. He then rode to the adjunct and reined in alongside her. Their viewpoint allowed for a clear view of the enemy's placements, and just as they were observing, the enemy in turn was watching them too. The adjunct asked how strong his eyes were, to which he replied that they were not that great. She explains that Comister Low is questing their direction, seeking signs of mages. Given that Nil and Nether are with her, his questing will not discover that they are mages. She asks Gamut how confident Corbolo Dom is at the moment. He studied her for a moment and then replied that his confidence would be wilting. Tavor wondered as to why. Gamut explains that it would appear all too easy. She fell silent, returning to watch the enemy. He thought to himself if that is what she wanted him for, to ask one simple question. Gamut studied the Warlock children and realized that they both have grown since their journey began. Tavor stated that Rillo's questing had ceased and he would need to rest. She turned in her saddle and signaled the two Wiccan children. The two Wiccans jogged up the slope and Tavor gave them her sword. They quickly retreated with the Otatero sword. She calls out to Gamut and asks him to draw a few drops of blood. Gamut takes out his dagger and cuts his palm. Gamut held out his hand and watched as the blood spilled to the ground. He felt dizzy and lost his balance, and then he heard a hiss of surprise from Nether. Gamut looked down at her. Both of her hands were flush with the sand. Nil was doing the same, but his facial expression rotated before landing on one that looked like fear. Nil said there were spirits here. They were rising with anger. Nether cut in to say it was a song of war and warriors. New and old, battle and death, Nil chimed in. The land remembers every struggle played out. This goddess is nothing to this power, yet she looked to steal it. The adjunct wondered at this. Nil said that the goddess was looking to steal the warren and its fragment. Roots of shadow reaching down to feed from the land's memories. Nether whispered that the spirits would not have it. Nil bared his teeth and said that the ghosts cast no shadows, and the adjunct was right. Gamut wondered about that. Tavor asked if they would suffice. Nil shook his head and said that he didn't know, and it depended on what the Talon Master does, what the adjunct thought he was going to do. Nether said that this was assuming that Shaik was unaware of the viper in her midst. Tavor retorted that if she had known, she would have severed his head a long time ago. Nether replied that this was possible. However, it's possible to her, and the goddess were waiting until all her enemies were in one place. Tavor averted her gaze from the children and said to let them see. Both children stood and shared a glance that Tavor did not see. Gamut wiped sweat from his forehead, and he had the sudden realization that something had used him, through the medium of his blood. She nodded without looking over, and then instructed Gamut to return to his legion, and convey to his men that they might see units appear on the field of battle they do not recognize. They may seek orders, and he is to give them as if they were under his command. The adjunct commanded him to see a cutter for his hand and thanked him. He asked to have the guards bring her sword. He wheeled his horse and walked back down the slope. The headache was not fading, and that song, the song of flesh and bone, would never leave him. Inside his head, he told the song to leave him alone. He was just a soldier.
Nice job, dude.
Thanks, man.
You know who Gamut reminds me of?
Who?
I kind of had this realization as I was summarizing this chapter, but he reminds me of Tom Hanks' character in Saving Private Ryan.
Okay. The like modest commander, but like, yeah.
Like it's just like the get it done. attitude type thing. And that's just kind of what I envisioned a little bit.
Okay, I can see that. I can totally see that.
You know, he's like the company man. You know,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
that's all.
I
Just
don't know
want
if I
to
have
throw that
anything
in.
else to add to that because it's been a minute since I've seen that movie. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
No worries.
One of my first thoughts here was just this. There was one position that they could hold, and it was as defensible as a lone mountain keep, right? And it was said that was a lone saving grace. And I kind of wondered as I was reading, like, do you think that is by design? Dom's got to be smart enough to recognize the field of battle. Like, you would think that he would take that advantage away.
Well, I guess I didn't even think about that. I didn't catch that, but there will be something that comes up later that I definitely want to talk about that I think I was kind of right on in some sense, but not quite. So I don't know how to word it anything else than that, but I don't know that I want to get into it yet.
Okay, that's fair. Well,
So
maybe we can come back to that then. Because, yeah, I definitely, I feel like Corbolo Dom is a little bit of a focal point in this chapter.
yeah.
Next thought, the various coral islands overlooking the basin. Once they were in place, they would construct from the rubble defensive barriers and low walls, followed by ramps. I really enjoyed the imagery of the scene, and just the beginning of this chapter really does a good job of kind of setting the scene. You know, I imagine this, again, this giant bowl, right? And in the middle is just like no man's land, right? Like there's no hills, there's nothing that would give anybody a particular advantage. You know, Shaik is on the north side and they're kind of on the south side. And then we have other players kind of coming in from different corners of the basin. So it was just made sense to me.
Well, I'm glad because I kind of struggled to like picture that in my mind.
Yeah, everybody's converging on one part of the rim of the basin.
Sure.
This part where the adjunct intended to march them right into the enemy's lap, I can just only imagine the anxiety that these legions are feeling, these individual members of this army. We know she doesn't speak with her generals and captains about orders. So thinking about the leveling of anxiety walking in just kind of makes my stomach turn. Like you imagine yourself there, and it's not a good feeling.
Yeah. No, it would not be.
This part where Gamut thought to himself if walking straight into the enemy's lap was intimidation or a failure of the imagination. And I think that that's an interesting thought. And I wonder if this encapsulates how the reader may have been feeling this whole book, at least regarding Tavor and her competency. I would imagine we are very close to knowing which one it will be.
I don't know how I guess I feel. I mean, I guess, the shortest distance, a straight line, right? So she seems like she doesn't want to screw around. So it's just like, let's get there and let's do this thing. So let's just get there the quickest way we can.
Right. But I think what Gamut is getting hung up on is that her way of being intimidating by like not skirting around the bush, so to speak? Or is it a failure of the imagination? And that's kind of what I felt like throughout this whole book is that we don't really get a lot of Tavor's thoughts on strategies or tactics, right? It's kind
I
of
don't think
left.
we get any, really.
Right, exactly. We get like a little bit of like what would I would consider like gossip or speculation. It's just interesting, and we kind of feel the way these soldiers feel about Tavor and her command. Because obviously there's been some failures, right? Like we read some things that didn't go well. We read some things that have gone well. So it's like you're left on the edge, right? Of where it is that she falls. I'm hoping that we find out. So I thought it was an interesting turn of phrase. Walking
Nice. All
in
right.
is either intimidating to the army or is it a lack of imagination? It could really go either way.
I guess,
It all depends on what works to the enemy, right?
yeah. And that I don't remember if it was one of your talking points, but where, damn it, I lost my train of thought. Oh, maybe it must not have come up yet. Never mind. Oh, wait.
Okay. Well, my next thought is a little bit related to that, because Keneb stated that the adjunct already decided the disposition of the Legion. And while Gamut confirms, we're told that their Legion was to guard avenues of retreat that the enemy may take up. And it was an assumption of madness, as one would think that with that strategy, they had already won. So, to Gamut, they're outnumbered, and Shaik has every advantage, and only 1/3 of the adjunct's army would be doing battle, or wouldn't be doing battle. So 2/3 of the army is going to be fighting the main battle, while the other 1/3, as we found out in a previous chapter, is just going to be split up into groups and blah, blah, blah. What they're going to do or how they're going to help, that really hasn't been revealed. But I think it's interesting that they're basically blocking exit routes of the enemy, not themselves, but of the enemy. It's definitely an interesting strategy, and I just wonder how it's all going to go, how it's all going to go down.
It's just like that dodgeball quote. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how that works out for him.
Exactly. Right. Such a good movie.
I think I worked some dodgeball into this chapter later on, if I remember right.
There we go.
I don't know if you saw it, but maybe you didn't.
I don't look at your comments. So
no, it wasn't a comment. It was just in the summary itself.
Oh, well, no, I don't read this. I don't read your summaries.
I got you. Well, hopefully you get a chuckle later then.
I probably will. This thought that Gamut has that makes him angry, the thought of Malazans riding double on Kundral horses made the fist angry. So he's kind of talking about, the horse riders, right? For both armies, the basin's too small to utilize them. And so he's predicting that Shaik's horse warriors will chase down Malazans. And while he says the Kundral can take care of that, it kind of makes it sound like they're going to be lifting people up and they're going to be riding 2 men per horse type of thing. And that made him upset.
Yeah, it's a lot of extra weight on a horse.
Right. So, but in turn it would be slaughtered. So my guess is that the Kundral are kind of like the fall guy in his mind, where they save the retreat by blocking the horse warriors from slaughtering the retreating Malazans. So like the Kundral kind of intervene is the sense that I got. And that it's understandable why Gamut is upset. I would be too. My next thought is skips down a little bit to where Nether is talking about the song that was rising was the song of war and warriors. And this makes me think the spirits of Raraku are awakening. The song that is so prominent inside Fiddler and Kalam's mind. And I hope my theory about them working with Raraku was right. And that is that Raraku essentially awakens, right? The spirits don't want the Whirlwind to steal their power, their fragment or whatever. I think the way that it was said in the book was like roots of shadow.
Roots taking shadow or something. Or, yeah.
It was a tree analogy, and it made total sense, right? Like, how else do you get stronger but like take from the resources of the land? Well, the land is not going to have that. And it leads me to believe that Raraku will be victorious over the Whirlwind, and will, instead of the Whirlwind having its own house, the Raraku will. Kalam and Fiddler maybe like Mortal Sword or Destriant or something.
I have some similar thoughts in one of my sections that maybe we could talk about.
Okay.
At that point. But
yeah. Wow. It seems like a asynchronous alignment here. This rarely happens.
Maybe. I don't know. I can see myself agreeing with that, but maybe it just took me a different part to have some similar thoughts as you.
Fair enough. Easy peasy. This part where Nether was wondering if Shaik was unaware of the Viper in her midst. And I'm definitely starting to think that this is Corbolo Dom trying to get back into the good graces of Empress Lucine. I think this is probably maybe one of the first hints to this in this chapter. So
Okay, I didn't think about that because I kind of thought it was talking about Kalam.
I think that's what he wants you to think.
Okay.
It's clear by the end of this chapter what Dom is doing. And even throughout the chapter, like, you'll probably hear me bringing him up quite a bit because I feel like I had a lot of comments about.
I'm not going to disagree with you at all because I just didn't pick up that early.
Oh, sure. No worries. Well, they even make a mention about what the adjunct wondered or was anticipating the master of the Talons would do. So it kind of seems like the Viper in the midst is Corbolo Dom, and he's actually there to help them, is what it seems like.
Gotcha.
Which, if you go back to Deadhouse Gates, right? Like, Kamis Relo was in charge of the Apocalypse Army chasing the Chain of Dogs, and then Corbolo Dom came in later. Again, it just like, it makes that book almost suck, not in a bad way, even more, because it almost seems like it's a setup, it's a game. Like, it almost kind of feels like Coltane was supposed to die. He was set up. Another game on the game piece, so to speak.
Could be.
My last thought is that this part where Adjunct Tabor orders Gamut to let his units know that there may be other people on the field of battle they don't recognize, and they may seek orders, and he is to give them as if they are under his command. So to me, I'm like, Gamut is to give these unrecognizable soldiers orders. And again, you think that this may be Dom's people. Is this the betrayal that we've been hearing about? Or you think these might be like the spirits rising?
That's interesting. I'm kind of smiling right now because, like, it took to different parts, but I think we're thinking very similarly right now. So I think it could be both. But again, when I read this, I didn't think about Dom at all. I was thinking, oh, well, maybe it's just like these mixed units that they have, you know.
Maybe. I mean, and that very well could be it. I think it definitely seems from this section that Adjunct Tavor knows something that she's not saying, because she predicts something about the ghosts have no shadows. So it's almost like she knew that the whirlwind was only going to anger Roriku. And then on top of that, it seems like she knows she can't make her next move until the master of the Talons, which a long time ago we predicted was Dom. And I do think throughout this chapter that is true, because there are other things that allude to that she can't move until he moves, right? That's the sense that I'm getting.
One thing that I would bring up, that was your last comment. One thing that stuck out to me was when Tavor asks Gamut how she asks him what he thinks, like, Dom, you know, how is his confidence right now? And Gamut says it's going down, right?
Mm-hmm.
His confidence is going down.
Built-in.
And it seemed to catch Tavor off guard. Like, she wasn't very happy with that answer. And I just thought that was an interesting thing just because she asks this question and it's almost like she got the answer that she didn't want. But I feel like that would be the answer you would want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But she seemed kind of put off by it to me.
Well, right, because there's an alliance there. So for her to hear that his confidence is wilting, right? Like, that doesn't help her.
I suppose not.
But I think that she recognizes that she's the only one in the know-how. And so Gamut is looking at it from an adversarial perspective instead of an alliance. Yeah. Or maybe it's disappointing to her because the facade of it being easy peasy is not what she wants. Maybe she was looking for intimidating.
Could be.
Right. But yeah, no, that's all of the thoughts that I had for that beautifully open section to this chapter.
All right, we'll move on. Strings sat on a rock with his head in the palm of his hands. He had tossed his helm, but had no recollection of doing that as it lay near his feet. Pain washed over him like waves. Voices were trying to talk to him, but he couldn't make out what they were saying. The song tore through his body like he had never felt so far. A hand gripped his shoulder, and he felt magic quest through him. Silence spread within. Strings was finally able to look up. It was Bottle who had helped him, though Bottle's face was now pale and covered with sweat. Bottle asked Springs if he could hear him. Strings said hardly. It was as if he was 30 paces away. Bottle asked if the pain was gone. Strings said it was, and asked what he did. Bottle looked away. Strings told everyone besides Bottle to get back to work. They were positioned on the most southwest island, overlooking dunes that reached out to forever. There was one wide corridor that ran to the north that, if the enemy broke and fled, would come right through as they left the basin. And just beyond it was a modest tell, which held some desert warriors who kept an eye on the Malazans. Strings asked Bottle what was up. Bottle said it was spirits, and they were waking up. Strings wanted to know what that had to do with him. Bottle figured it was mortal blood. It has its own song, and they came to him because they remember it and wanted to add their voices to his, and Bottle didn't know why. Strings looked at him for a few moments before he spoke. He told Bottle it was because Bottle thought he was fated to die in the battle. Bottle looked away and said he wasn't sure. This was all above his pay grade. Strings said he was a bridge burner. They were born in Raraku. Bottle's eyes went wide. He thought they had been wiped out. Strings told him that they were. Bottle said this wasn't going to be a typical battle. Strings said there was no such thing. There was nothing usual about killing and dying, pain and terror. Bottle said that isn't what he meant. Strings said he knew that, but nowadays battles are filled with munitions and sorcery, so you come to expect some surprises. Gessler's two dogs walked by. Bottle said this place was complicated as he picked up a disc-shaped rock. He said Eris all, a hand axe. The basin below was filled with them. It took them days to make these, and they didn't even use them. Just chucked them into the lake. Why make a tool and not use it? Strings didn't know who the hell he was talking about. Bottle said they were a long-gone people. Strings asked if they were the spirits. Bottle said no, the spirits were from all of the time of the land, but his grandmother had told him about the Eris, those who came before the Highness, the first makers of tools, and he had never thought he would make one. I don't know if I used the wrong word there. She was there in the song with him, with Strings, and she had shared her mind with him. It was her who silenced his mind. Bottle didn't have that power. Strings asked if he could still speak with her. He said no. He wanted to get out of there, out of the blood as quickly as possible. Most of it was Strings' blood, but the rest was the songs. Strings closed his eyes and thought about Kimlock. He had told him no, but he did it anyways. Kimlock stole his story. Not just his, but the bridge burners, and made it into a song. He was going to give them back to Raraku. Strings told Bottle to go help the others and thanked him. Bottle said he would pass the message on to the Eris Witch if he saw her again. Strings wondered how much Bottle had left out and wondered if tomorrow would be his last fight. And maybe he was being called to join all the fallen bridge burners. He thought that would be miserable company, but he missed them all, even Hedge. He picked up his helmet and looked out over the basin and thought of Kalam and wondered if he knew why he was here. Right. Like I kind of said before, I didn't have a ton of thoughts, but I've got something that probably aligns with you, and I just picked it up in a little different spot. But my first thought here, where it talks about the desert warriors watching the Malazans, it's got to be, like, I was assuming that was Leoman watching, or do you think it's Dom?
I think that it's kind of playing alongside the first section where both sides are like watching each other. So I think that's what Fiddler is seeing. I didn't get the sense that it was Leoman. I feel like Leoman is not at the edge of the basin. He's a little bit off somewhere else.
Okay. You had something there?
Yeah. I don't know if we want to talk about this last because it's along the lines of the bridge burner and Kimlock and Raraku. So, but I mean, I can, because when Strings tells Bottle that they were born in Raraku, and then Bottle is like, oh, well, I thought that they had been wiped out. And then Strings said that they were, right? So, like, they're still here, obviously. I mean, we've been reading about them in Gardens of the Moon and Memories of Ice, Dead House Gates, right? And then it wasn't until the end of Memories of Ice where we lost some, right?
Right.
And so this word "were" is like really standing out to me. And I didn't really like think about it until you read it. And then like everything just kind of, it'd been gnawing at me throughout this chapter. But then when you read it, I'm like, okay, well now I think I can make some coherent thoughts. And so the word "were" makes me think that the bridge burners were essentially killed in Raraku, but Raraku resurrected them. And so this is what he means by Kimlock stole the story, right? Gave them back to Raraku. So do you think that that means that the Bridgeburners are going to die again and be resurrected again? Could that mean that like Whiskey Jack, Hedge, all those guys at the end of Memories of Ice that died would come back? Because if the song that Kimlock introduced is elliptical, right? And if the story that Strings is talking about that Kimlock stole and then combined it with this "were" and "born in Raraku," right? Like before they were the bridge burners, they were just a unit of the Malazan army, right? So kind of maybe similar to like your Bone Hunters theory, right? Did Raraku ascend them or resurrect them, and now they're labeled the bridge burners? So is it possible that they were resurrected? The Tano song that Kimlock stole or reintroduced to Raraku makes me think that maybe there's going to be a resurrection again.
I would not be very happy if like Whiskey Jack came back.
Oh, really?
No,
Just
it would just
because
feel
of how hard that was?
yeah, it would just feel cheap. Like we went through that death and to have it basically mean nothing, if he just came back.
Would it mean nothing though?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to worry about death being final, to me, it just cheapens it in
Hmm.
that sense.
Yeah, but not everybody's going to get this privilege, right?
No, but I feel like we've kind of seen it a little bit already, and so I don't feel that we're going to get those guys brought back. But that's just me.
Hmm.
Could be wrong. Maybe you're right.
I don't know. I just, you remember at the end of Dead House Gates where Fiddler blows the conch shell and a song appears or whatever? So I think that
Yeah.
was the moment that Raraku awoke, is my guess.
All right.
So I don't know. It's just all of those things seem to be connected in some way. What exactly it means, I don't know. I'm obviously just grabbing at straws, but that word "were" and then "born" in Rораku, very again, very similar to your Bone Hunters theory, right? Like it was just one word
Sure.
that
Yeah.
kind of sparked this like, butterfly effect of all of these other things. So I don't know. It was just a thought.
Sure. My next thought here, just the dog, it was just, I made it just a quick sentence, but we got to see the two dogs again. I was happy to see them pop up.
Mm-hmm. In my next section, they pop up again, or in the next
Okay.
section, they pop up again. Do you remember that?
No, I didn't read this chapter again after summarizing. So at least right now it's not.
Okay. Well, when I
Popped in
read
my
that
mind.
section, pay attention or keep an eye out for the dogs, or an ear out for the dogs.
Sounds good. This is kind of my crackpot theory here that I think maybe will actually tie to you a little bit, Justin, where you're talking about the spirits rising up. But again, it talks about, we talk about the spirits rising up and how this basin below is filled with these hand axes, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't help but think like it talked about how the Eris, they just made all these things and chucked them into a lake. In their time, it was a lake or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if they had some sort of like foresight to like know that, well, these are going to be needed someday. So they made them for this battle all that time long ago. and these spirits are going to rise up and use these weapons in battle.
Interesting. Maybe.
It's a little bit of a crackpot theory, but
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I mean, what other purpose would there be to explain that?
yeah, I don't know. It was just the way it was described, and then it talks about spirits rising. It just kind of made me maybe there's some sort of a connection there.
Well, I mean, when Nil and Nether are talking about the spirits, right? It's war and battles, warriors, blood, death, fighting battles. So maybe it's just one of those things where there was foresight to make those to be used, as you were saying, for all of these battles that kind of ensued after.
Sure, yeah, that could be too. Yeah,
Like the Aerosol just, I don't know, had some futuristic sight into what Roriku would become. I don't know.
yeah. Well, I think that was my last thought here for that section. So,
All right.
anything else you want to add?
Not at all. We can move forward.
Sounds good.
The shaman was in a frenzy as he scuttled around the blackened bones that had been burned in the hearth. Korab was chewing on scarab shells that were strung around his neck. He plucked the necklace from his mouth and began spitting out shells. Leoman approached the shaman and grabbed the man by his talaba. He shook the shaman and asked what he saw. The old man shrieked that he saw armies. Leoman said that he could see them too. He cursed him, but was cut off when the shaman said that he saw more armies. He scrabbled past and ran to the southwest part of the tell and was pointing at the Malazans entrenching on the island opposite of the old drainage tunnel. Leoman made no move to follow. He walked over to Korab and told him to send another message to Shaik, and then quickly changed his mind and told the man he should go himself. He wants to know how Mathok will be arranged come dawn. He tells Korab to only speak to Shaik, and once he got that info to head back here. Korab said that he would do as he was commanded. The shaman turned around and screamed at Leoman that they were here, the dogs, the Wiccan dogs. Leoman scowled and said that the man was a fool. Korab jogged over to his horse. He had had enough of the shaman's foolish ravings. He gathered his spear and headed toward Shaik's oasis. The path was full of twists and turns, winding through sharp and jagged outcrops, which caused him to go slowly. The day was drawing to a close, and the shadows were deepening. He rounded a corner, and a sudden smell of something dead stung their noses. The path was blocked. It was a dead horse, and just beyond it, a body. Korab cautiously got down and approached the body. He recognized it as one of Leoman's messengers. The crossbow bolt had taken the man through the temple. He scanned the ridges and edges of the walls on both sides. If there had been assassins here, he would have already been dead, and probably the assassins weren't expecting any more messengers. He returned to his horse and after some coaxing was able to get the animal moving. 60 paces later, the trail opened up and he could see the Galinda tree. He breathed a sigh of relief and he urged his horse forward. He felt 2 hammer blows against his back and he was flung forward. He grabbed the horse's neck even as it screamed in pain. He almost lost his grip and the horse's right knee hit his head repeatedly. Korab held on even though he was slipping until his body was being pummeled by both front legs of the horse. He managed to pull himself underneath the horse's head as the beast began to feel the burden of his body. Another quarrel hit the ground slightly to his left, and the horse suddenly stopped. He took the opportunity to get back on the horse. Even though he lost the reins, he had held tightly to the horse's mane. He drove his heels into the horse's flank, and they bolted away. Another bolt thudded against the landscape, and sudden daylight bathed him. Directly ahead lay the oasis. He urged the horse to run faster. He headed for a trail between 2 trees. He glanced back and saw the horse was bleeding, and stuck in his lance shaft were 2 crossbow bolts. He surmised that they hit at different angles and likely at the same time. Korab grabbed the ruined weapon and threw it away, and then bolted down the trail.
Dude, this guy's kind of starting to piss me off.
Korab?
Yeah, he should be, like, by all counts, he should be dead.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
multiple times over, right? Like, he's got a horseshoe up his ass so far, like, he's spitting clovers out. I think his luck's going to run out at some point and he'll eat it, but Like it's just for us, like all this stuff. Like, dude, like how are you surviving all this stuff?
He's just getting lucky. Maybe Opan's involved somehow.
I don't know.
I mean, we haven't seen them since the first book. I'm kind of wondering if they ever do come back.
I guess that's a big read and find out moment for sure.
Yeah, I mean, time will only tell, right?
Yeah.
My first thought here is he cursed him but was cut off. Leoman said that he could see them too. He cursed him and then was cut off. He calls him a damned fakir, and obviously there's supposed to be more letters there. And then is cut off. And I wonder what he was about to call him. Like, have we heard any type of curse word? I'm just wondering what the word is.
Yeah, I
And
would
like,
have asked
why
you the
would you
same
hide
thing.
that? Yeah,
I don't have any idea.
I'm curious. Maybe over time, again, Raffo moment, but I'm glad to see that you felt the same way. So I just thought I
Yeah,
would make
yeah,
note
for
of it.
sure.
The Wiccan dogs that I told you to kind of pay attention to. And obviously the shaman is freaking out about these dogs, but Leomin and Korab just kind of see them as foolish ravings. And I'm going to go with because they survived the fall and there may be some type of bad omen, or it's the opposite, right? Because we know that the desert tribes glorified Coltane, right? Like they decorated the fall like a Christmas tree. So maybe it's that too. Maybe it's this like, oh, they survived the fall, so it's either a bad omen, or it's like a, I don't know, like a sign of rejoicing or something like that. Like I don't know how to really explain that point of view, but
I mean, I don't know that I've got anything to add for you.
fair enough.
Sorry, man.
No worries. This part where he's essentially looking for assassins. And this is another Dom thing. And I'm going to go with it's Dom's gaggle of assassins he's got with him, preventing communication between Leomin and Shaik.
I didn't think that at all, I guess. I assumed it was the Malazans just cutting them down, but you could be right, I guess. I mean, maybe
Well,
I
you got to
suppose the
remember,
Malazans probably wouldn't be that close.
right? They're on opposite sides of the
I guess that makes
basin.
sense. Yeah, that's just what I thought at the time when I was reading it, summarizing it, I suppose.
Yeah. It just, yeah, there's a lot of Dom references in here. And, to the night that eventually unfolds in this chapter is, it was preluded that shit was going to go down. And now we're starting to see some things go down. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's only going to get worse.
Right. My last thought was just that this was kind of a very intense scene, like he escaped by the skin of his neck, right? And as you mentioned, he should be dead. Like this is now what the second time where we've seen him, elude death.
At least the
Right.
second. It might be the third.
What was the other
Well,
one?
like he had the grenade deal, but I feel like
Yep.
there was something else. Oh, he got shot at before. They were running away before and they got shot at.
Oh yeah, in the
So
where someone fired their crossbow bolt early or whatever.
yeah. So at least three then.
Yeah. I wonder if there's something there. Then maybe you're onto something.
3 strikes and you're out. Next one's gonna get them.
Maybe. Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and read. I just have to potty real quick. But
Sounds good. A tiger's barbs painted on a toad, and somehow it makes you look even more dangerous, she said. Heberick said she was right. He was pure poison. She had life back in her eyes, that the Durhang smoke had left her head. She still coughed, but that had gotten a little better as well. She had a mouthpiece of a hookah in her mouth. Heberick said if he could see her, he would conclude that she was getting better. Skillar called him the Destriant of Treach and said that she was better. She was surprised his feline eyes had not caught that. Heberick grunted and said it was mostly because she wasn't slurring her words anymore. She asked what they were to do next. Heberick said it would soon be dark, and he would go and find Lorik and hoped she would join him. After that, they would find Fellison younger. Heberick asked Scalara how old she was. She replied, saying she was as old as she needed to be. If she had to take Fellison Younger's orders, then so be it. There was no point in being resentful. The conversation progressed, and Heberick felt out of place as his temple was mostly male, and despite his age, he wasn't used to verbal battle with a female. He said he didn't think Fellison Younger had any interest in commanding anyone, and this was not trading one cult for another. No one would try to manipulate her here. Scalara sighed and said he had told her this before and asked him to lead her into darkness. Heberick said he would once it arrived. I didn't really have any thoughts on this. The only thing that comes to mind is I think it was my own Genesis. We had a little, not like, I think he said something at one point about how, like, I would summarize it as Fellison the Younger. And he said it was just Fellison Younger.
Yeah.
And I was pretty confident that it was Fellison the Younger, and maybe at some point earlier in the book it was, but like at least now it's definitely Fellison Younger. So my own Genesis, I'm pretty sure it was you. I will concede that point.
Well, I think it's only a name that Haboric gives her. No one else does. So
I
maybe
think we talked
someone
about
else.
that last chapter, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, interesting. Good point. Sure, maybe, yeah.
So
But-
maybe someone was making fun of Haboric in how he calls Felizan.
Sure.
I guess
Um,
I can't remember that small of details.
yeah. I don't know if there's anything that called up to you on this section. I didn't really have anything other than that.
The only thing that I remember or feeling is that like I felt not overjoyed, but I felt joyful that Scalara was clearing her head. Right, she was kind of coming down from the Durhang because I think that like she's going to be an important character moving forward, right? So like it's nice to see that like her clarity's coming back. She's obviously still very like guarded, but
You know what? I think you're right, but her head clearing, so to speak, I think I am beginning to not trust her. I think she's going to be dangerous.
I think she's gonna. You
I
think it's a
think
setup?
I kind of think I'm still pretty convinced Felsen Younger is going to die, and I wonder if Scalara is going to do it.
Why do you think Scalara would do it?
We already know she would mutilate little girls.
Hmm.
I mean, she said she would do that for Bidethal.
And that she wants to be like Bidethal.
So I mean, I could see her doing. I could see her.
Do you think that was the Durhang talking though, or do you think that that is because I kind of get the sense that it's been a while since she's been sober.
I agree, but I think I don't know. I'm not sure, but I think her having a clear head is going to make her dangerous, and maybe
Okay.
that's kind of part of the reason that Corbolodon kept her by. I don't know.
I guess we'll just have to see. Man, lots of Rafa moments.
I think if it's going to happen, it's going to be in this next chapter. I don't think it'll be in the last chapter. I think it'll be that penultimate chapter, second to last. I think.
You think this is where all the action's going to happen, where all those stories converge?
Chapter 25?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think chapter 26 will kind of be whatever the aftermath.
Okay.
Here's the deal. Like I'm going to throw my freaking book across the room if I'm even half right.
About what? Felton Younger?
Yeah. Even if Scalara doesn't do it, if she still dies, I'm going to be pissed.
Well, send me an angry emoji.
Well, see, I'm definitely going to read it tonight, but I think we're going to try to finish watching the second season of Severance.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, like that show gives me Malazan vibes a lot.
Even though it's like not really set in that timeline or that like era, I don't even know what you'd call it.
Yeah, it's just like I tweeted something one night. I'm like, it makes me think of Malazan because I feel like I know what's going on a little bit, but then I really just don't have a clue.
Okay.
So it's a great show.
We started watching it, and I think like for whatever reason we just stopped because we were both like, I don't know, unentertained. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll give it another shot.
I would say give it another shot.
Okay. All right. Well, what do you say? Should we move on to section 5?
Yeah, let's do it.
Shaik stood at the northernmost ramp overlooking the basin. She was studying the Malazans on the far rises as they kept digging. Ever methodical was her sister. She glanced to her left and scanned Dom's positions. All was ready for tomorrow's battle. Dom himself, surrounded by his aides, was doing as she was doing, watching the Malazans. She thought to herself that all was in place. Suddenly, the whole thing seemed pointless. The game of murderous tyrants pushing their armies to clash. She thought to herself that what value was there in mindless hunger to rule? She wondered what Lucine wanted from them. 7 cities would never bode well under her rule. Lucine would have to enslave, and what was the point of that? She thought about her own goddess. Was she really any different than Lucine? She thought that Raraku doesn't belong to Dryjana. Now the desert wails, against one and all. Mathok was beside and was silent all this time until he spoke and said that the adjunct had made her appearance. She turned her gaze from Dom and looked to where Mathok was pointing. She saw that she was riding a Paran horse and thought to herself that of course her sister would do that. There were 2 Wiccans next to her, and she was wearing armor. Shaik looked at Dom and Corbolo and said that Rouleau had unleashed his warren and quested towards the adjunct. Tavor's sword defied his quest in their direction, so he reached around, seeking high mages, unsuspecting allies within the Malazan army. After a moment, she sighed and said that he only found a few shamans and a few squad mages. Mathok asked if the 2 Wiccans next to the adjunct were Nil and Nether. Shaik said that this was correct and stated that they were said to be broken of spirit. Mathok suggested that because Tavor was shielding them, it would suggest that their power might be stronger than they suspected. Shaik retorted that it was because she didn't want their weaknesses exposed. Mathok asked why go through all the trouble of hiding them when their weaknesses are known. She said that it was an attempt to deepen their doubt of the Warlock children. He scowled and said that this mire has no surface. Shaik said to wait as she stared at Tavor. She sees Tavor get rid of her Otatero sword, and Rouleau has quelched his questing of his sorcery. It was then that they were hit with the muted unveiling of Nil and Nether's power, a power far greater than it had its right to be. Shaik gasped as the goddess within her flinched, as if stung. Raraku was answering the summons, a multitude of voices rising with unstoppable power. The sound, Shaik realized, was countless souls straining against the chains that bound them. She thought to herself that they were chains of shadow, chains like roots, the piece of shadow that has risen to bind their souls, and so feeds upon the life force. Shaik is heard asking Mathok where Leoman was, because they needed him. He responded that he didn't know. She turned to Dom, and he was further ahead on the ramp, studying the Malazans with an air of confidence that made her want to scream. Nothing was as it seemed. The sun was setting in the west, and the day was nearing an end. And she watched as the shadows flowed across the land, and her heart went cold. Shaik seems to have these like internal debates about the difference or the similarities between Lucine and the Whirlwind. And that's what I'm assuming she means by murderous tyrants when she's saying the game of murderous tyrants pushing their armies to clash.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and in the end, isn't kind of war just pointless anyways? Like, it's
Yeah,
just a waste of life generally.
right. Exactly. This thought where she specifically says, the book says, she thought that Raraku doesn't belong to Dryjana. And is this a hint? Like the cult of Dryjana maybe formed the Whirlwind? I know that like I maybe speculated on that before, but I think it's interesting that she's saying Raraku doesn't belong to Dryjana instead of Raraku doesn't belong to the Whirlwind, right? So is it possible that in civilizations past, warriors of Raraku fought against this cult of Dryjana, which we know was Talani Mass?
Maybe.
Then that would definitely explain why there's so many dead in Raraku. It's just another battle. It's just another war between 2 societies.
More people died.
Yep. This part where, she's explaining that Rouleau is questing to the Malazans, seeking shamans or high mages or unsuspecting allies, right? I think this is another hint as to Corbolo's betrayal, because Rouleau and Corbolo are working together. Because in a later or an earlier chapter, Rouleau has some concerns and they have a
Sure.
conversation about it.
I was, I think you're right. Didn't see it till still later yet in this chapter, and where they basically, when Corbolo says it, and it caught me by surprise because I had thought that it was going to be Leoman who betrays, right? I thought he was going to, I didn't expect it to be Corbolo. I was like, oh man, we talk about this. I got to ask Justin about that. But you've already brought it up. So that was kind of like at the beginning of the chapter when I said, I had this something I wanted to talk about. That was it. I was pretty surprised, and I didn't pick up on these hints that you did.
Well, I mean, we're thinking along the same wavelength. It doesn't matter where you pick them up,
Yeah, it just took me a little longer. That's all.
Yeah. There's more to come, though. There's more that I think you'll probably go like, oh. So when that happens, or if it doesn't, whatever, I don't care. This part where Mathok is like, they're talking about Nil and Nether and the power, why Tavor would hide that. And he scowls and said that this mire has no surface. And I had to look that up, but I really liked the line. And a mire is a swamp or bog. Well, if a swamp or bog doesn't have a surface, what happens? You fall into it.
I mean, even if it does have a surface, you could fall through it still.
Right, exactly. So it's one of those things where Mathok is clearly seeing something that Shaik is refusing to acknowledge.
Nice pickup.
Thanks. And now going to Nil and Nether's actual the power that was far greater than it had right to be. I didn't see this coming. Did you? All those chapters where they were described as broken and grieving and disheveled seemed to just be a facade. Maybe not at first, but as time passed throughout the book, it's just interesting.
No, I didn't. I didn't see it, and even as I read it, I wasn't sure that I guess I even understood. To be perfectly honest with you.
Well, I think that they just summoned Raraku, and it seems like it's a combination of Nil, Nether, and Raraku's power, the power that the Whirlwind is trying to steal.
Gotcha. Okay.
Raraku is not going to have that, so they're going to align with whoever's going to help them or best serve its interest. And then again, the sound that Shaik realized was countless souls straining against the chains that bound them. And I almost get the feeling that the chains are the whirlwinds. Like the whirlwind has these souls chained to her will. Because it almost kind of seems like, the many times that we've discussed, the whirlwind seems to be battling Raraku, or maybe the whirlwind has found a way to keep Raraku at bay in some way, shape, or form, and now it's just had enough.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Again, not really. I didn't have any deep thoughts on that, to be perfectly honest.
No worries. Related,
just one of those things that you got deeper feelings on than I did.
No worries. But a related piece, this part where the piece of shadow that has risen to bind their souls so feeds upon the life force. And I almost kind of get why do I get the feeling that the children taken in Shadow Throne is connected to this? Remember early on in the book when Kalam passes by some chained beast or demon, and we were wondering what it was? You think that is related?
I don't remember that. That was in this book?
Yeah, it was very early on when Kalam and Shadow Throne are talking, and Kalam essentially leaves to go do what he's going to do.
Right now, I'm not remembering that.
It might have been chapter 6 or 7, somewhere in there. It was definitely after all the Karza stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
So those first couple of chapters in the second subbook.
Not ringing any bells. Sorry.
No, that's all good. I just kind of wonder if the Because you remember at the end of Dead House Gates, the children, right, that Kalam and
Yeah.
Manala are supposed to like watch, right? I'm wondering if
Yep.
they have a piece of this because they are essentially souls of Uraku, but now they're in Shadow Realm.
That would be cool to see them come back. But again, I haven't thought of them in a while. I wouldn't have drawn any sort of connection to that. So I'll be interested to see if you're right.
Well, and almost all related to that, at the end of the section here, Shaik watches as the shadows started to flow across the land and her heart went cold. And I feel like that's maybe some significant foreshadowing. No pun intended, but
Maybe.
maybe.
I don't know.
So, but again, I don't know. There's just so many things like whirling around. Like, why are they connected? Why do they seem like they should be opposing each other but aiding each other at the same time? And it's just really fucking weird. Like, if Kellanved operated and controlled the Talani Mass before he became Shadow Throne, then why is he going against them? Yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. Whirlwind is a fragment of Corral Emerlon. Blah, blah, blah.
All will be revealed in due time.
Fused. Cool. Well, that's all I had about that, or all the thoughts I had about that section. So I'm ready to move on if you are.
I don't have anything to add there. All right. The alley outside Hebrick's tent was empty in both directions. With the sun set, there seemed to be an eerie silence along with gloom. Dust hung suspended in the air. Hebrick paused, and Scalara asked where everyone was. He had been wondering the very same thing. Then the hair on the back of his neck stood up. He asked her if she could hear it. She said only the wind, but there was no wind. Scalara recanted her answer and said it was a song. From far away. The Malazan army, perhaps? Heberick shook his head, but said nothing. They kept moving, and the song seemed to be suspended in the air, like the dust. Heberick was covered in sweat, and he thought it was fear. Fear had driven the people from the streets. The voices are the sound of war. Scalara said there should be children, girls more than anything. Heberick wanted to know why, and she said they were Bidithal's spies. Heberick asked if they were the girls. He-scars. She said yes, they should be everywhere. Sorry, that sentence was weird. Didn't make sense when I read it. Made sense when I wrote it. She said they should be everywhere. Heberick continued, without them, Bidithal would be blind. It was possible he sent them somewhere else or withdrawn them completely. There would be events happening this night. Blood would be spilled, the players drawing into position. Scalara said Bidithal had spoken of this night, the hours before the battle, that the world would change this night. Heberick said Bidithal had sunk to the bottom of the abyss and now stirs the black mud. Scalara said his dreams of true darkness were unfolding. Shadow was only an upstart, a realm born of compromise and filled with impostors. The fragments must be returned to the first mother. Heberick said he was not just a fool, but mad. Bidithal could not speak of these ancient battles as if he was worthy of them. He had lost his mind. Scalara shrugged and told Heberick that Bidithal says something is coming and no one suspects it. He alone can control it because only he remembers the dark. Heberick said he needed to find him. Scalara tried to tell him where, but Heberick knew he would be in his temple. They swung about as two figures emerged from the alley with blades out. Heberick removed the first attacker's head. The other tried to stab him in the eye, but he caught the wrist and crushed it, using the other hand to remove the assassin's entrails. He tossed the body aside. Scalara was only a few paces away with eyes wide. Heberick told her Corbolodam was not patient enough. Heberick was hit by 3 quarrels, one in the hip, another in the shoulder, and a third from behind in the other shoulder as he fell over a corpse. Scalara called him an old man and asked if he lived. Heberick called them bastards and said that it hurt. She said they were coming. Heberick was aware and they wanted to finish him off. He told her to get to the stone forest. He heard footsteps fall further away. He tried to get up, but there was too much pain. Footsteps approached. He heard 3 sets and also heard knives. Someone was standing over Heberick. He saw a figure through his blurred vision. A voice from a dozen paces away told the wraiths to be gone. Whoever was standing above Heberick told the assassin it was too late for that. They had just arrived. The assassin said, in the name of Hood, the hoarder of souls, he banished them from this realm. The voice only laughed and said Hood was out of his depth here. The assassin gave one last warning, saying their blades were sanctioned and would bleed their souls. The voice said that may be true if they ever reached them. The assassin said there were 2 of them and 3 assassins. There was a scuffle, and then the bodies dropped. A woman's voice said they should have left one alive to send back to Dom. The man said it was better this way. No one appreciates surprises anymore. The woman said she wasn't asking him, but did ask if the old man here was going to make it. The man said he didn't think Treach would give up on his new destriant yet. However, the other woman was now coming back, so it was time for them to leave. They couldn't surprise anyone else until dawn. There was silence, and Heberick was alone until Scylla showed up. She said it was her and that there had been soldiers here, but they didn't look too good. Heberick said not to worry about that, just pull the quarrels out. His flesh wants to heal itself, and drag him to his temple if she can. He felt her pull a quarrel, a flash of pain, and then nothing. The way that some of this was written was a little confusing to try to read and make sense of. But damn, right. Heberick, what a badass. Like, decapitates dude. Another guy's trying to stab him. He grabs his wrist, breaks it, cuts his guts out, chucks him aside. And then it takes three crossbow bolts to bring him down. And that's not even enough to kill him. I mean, it incapacitates him, sure, but he's not dead. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's very juxtaposed, right? Because you're so used to Haboric kind of being this like helpless creature, you know, and now he's taking out 2 dudes with ease. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A couple things. I didn't make note necessarily of this, but as I was reading this back, I kind of wondered, like, I bet you maybe thought this was interesting, but where it talks about Shadow being an upstart, a realm born of compromise and filled with imposters, and that it must be returned to the first mother. You just like the compromise part, compromise between light and dark, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes shadows.
Right.
Yeah, and this line where Heberick said Bidethal had sunk to the bottom of the abyss and now stirs the black mud. Like, how much lower can you get? You know, like, dang, Heberick does not have, and nobody should have a good opinion of Bidethal by any means, but he's
pissed.
Yeah.
Well, because I think it has something to do with what Scylla tells Heberick, and that is Bidethal told her that something was coming and no one suspects it. He alone can control it because only he remembers the dark. So now it's kind of cool because now you have kind of an understanding as to why he says, do you remember the dark, right? It's homage to Mother Dark. But here's where, as you were summarizing, I'm like, because I had this thought when I was rereading it earlier today, because I took my kids to the mall because they wanted to go to the mall last day of school or summer vacation type thing. So they each had a friend. They walked around the mall. I sat in the food court and reread the chapter. And as I was reading this part,
were you at the Mall of America too?
No, I was at the Eden Prairie Mall.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
I was like, how did we not see each other?
I would have texted you, like, you can assure that. Yeah,
sure.
This part where Bidethal says something is coming and no one expects it, for he alone can control it because he alone remembers the dark. Whatever. You think this is the 2 Daragoth that Kalan ran from? 2 Hounds of Darkness? Another force that was converging along with everything else?
I don't know. I don't know if he would be able to control the Daragoth. Maybe? I don't know. I think that would be a pretty tall task, though.
But I mean, they're in the desert. I mean, Kalam had to send his Azalan demons to fend them off while he escaped. So where else would they be? What else would they be doing?
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I don't know, but I still don't know that he could control them. Maybe he thinks he can, and maybe he
Oh,
can't. I don't know.
maybe
I'm gonna
because
be cranky if you're right about that because I like that.
um, but what other force is strong enough to take on Rarku or even the Whirlwind?
The
Right?
Octateral Dragon.
Nah, it's not coming in this book, sir. It's not
You don't think
happening.
so?
No,
Man,
it's chained up. Everyone
I know,
else
but
is busy.
it's gotta get loose at some point. Like you can't introduce that thing and just leave it hanging out there. And maybe you're right. Maybe it'll be another book, but like show me that dragon again.
We're not done with Raraku. Like we're not done with this side of the world. You know.
This dragon's like my version of Quick Ben for you.
There you go. There you go. Finally, you have something that I can make fun of.
Yeah.
Also, this whole convergence part. You remember in Deadhouse Gates? Like that was such a huge thing. Back when I was reading that book, I always felt like it had something to do with the Path of Hands and the Soul Taken and the Ivers. But I'm wondering if that was foreshadowing to all this shit.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, that was kind of my thought, my one thought here.
It was a good thought for sure. My other thought here, these people that kind of come to the rescue of Heberick, like that's got to be Pearl and Lestara, right?
I don't know. That's what I was confused about. As you said when we first, got done reading this, when you first got done reading this section, is because this part about Hood, the Hoarder of Souls, is that Earl and Lestara? Or
I
is
thought that
that
was the other people,
the
the
other
ones who
people?
wanted to kill Heberick. I thought that's who said that.
But it
But
says
just the
whoever
way,
was standing above Haboric told the assassin it was too late for that. They had just arrived. The assassin, as in who they're talking to, said in the name of Hood, the Hoarder of Souls, he banished them from this realm. And then the voice standing over Haboric laughed and said Hood was out of depth here. So I got the impression that Haboric's saviors were said that in the name of Hood, the Hoarder of Souls, banished the three of them from this realm, which gives me like outworldly vibes. Like, why would these be? I don't know. That part was so confused, but I'm sure you're
it was
probably
weird.
right. But I'm not
It was
making any
weird.
connections.
I didn't know if they were like apparitions or something, but just the way, like, because the one says like nobody appreciates surprises anymore, and I'm like, that sounds like a very Pearl like thing for Pearl to say.
But then maybe that's just it. Maybe he's a wielder of Hood's warrant. I mean, we know other people who can, and he is
Yeah,
Claw.
right. I
He
mean,
delivers
yeah.
death. So
Those are the only people that's like to me. It seems to make
um,
sense as who it would be.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
And they're in the general area,
Yeah, I mean, we know that they're at the Oasis, so
right?
I'm just gonna go with that. It was Pearl and Lestara because that's the only thing that makes any sense.
But it seems like they were, yeah, kind of like they magicked themselves or something because it didn't seem like they were like fully physically there. I don't know.
Maybe,
It was very weird. I don't know. But yeah, it was kind of confusing, and
yeah.
maybe we're just not supposed to really understand it yet. I don't know.
Well, I think it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to know who these two people are.
Yeah,
I don't know.
unless we're picking up on hints correctly.
Right. Yes. I mean, clearly the three that attacked Haboric, or the five that attacked Haboric, Haboric took two down, and then the
And
other
then
three took Haboric down, are Dom's assassins.
I agree. Yes.
So the two saviors, I can only assume, are probably Pearl and Lestara, but I don't
Maybe
know.
not to. Yeah, I
I
don't know.
can't draw any connections to them.
Sure. Well,
But yeah, I'm ready to move on if you are.
yes, sir.
Section 7. Elder Shaik's armor was laid on a table. Shaik put on the armor. Once she was done, she sheathed the sword and then grabbed the heavy belt and secured it to her waist. All that was left was the gauntlets and the oversized helm. She wondered if she had any choice in this. The goddess remained a towering presence in her mind and body. Ascendant power was in her grasp, or rather, she was in the goddess's grasp. She thought it was to kill her sister. She sensed someone approaching and turned to face the doorway. She told Lorik that he could enter. The high mage stepped into view wearing all white armor. She sighed and said that they were making She sighed and said that they all were making preparations. Lorik informs her that Mathok has over 300 warriors guarding the palace, guarding her. Shaik said that Mathok was exaggerating the risk, as the Malazans are too busy. Lorik said that the danger he anticipates is not with the Malazans. Shaik said that he looked tired and should get some rest, as she'll need him come tomorrow. Lorik wondered if she wouldn't heed his warning. Shaik responded that she had the Whirlwind goddess to protect her, so she had nothing to fear. She smiled, and besides, Mathok had 300 warriors guarding her. Lorik explains that there will be a convergence tonight. He suggests that she get one of her readers of the deck to confirm this. Ascendant powers are gathering. The stench of treachery is in the air. Shaik waves a hand at him and says that she can't be touched because the goddess will not be denied. He stepped closer and told her that Raraku was awakening and asked if she could not hear it. Shaik replied that the whirlwind consumed every sound, and if Raraku was giving voice, then it was its death cry. She said that if any ascendant approached, they would be annihilated, because the goddess will not be denied. He stared at her a moment longer, and with a gesture of frustration turned and walked away. Shaik told him to wait, and then moved past him and stopped. Voices were heard behind the canvas walls, and Shaik tells her guards to let him pass. 2 guards stumbled in, dragging Korab. He was exhausted and battered. Korab said that he was the 3rd messenger sent by Leomin. He explains that he found the other bodies, and assassins pursued him till he got close to her palace. Shaik was pissed and told the guards to get Mathok. He asked Lorik to heal Korab. Lorik healed the man, and Korab's breathing slowed. He explains that Leomin wishes to know Mathok's deployment. Shaik said that Korab would go back to Leomin with an escort and give her orders exactly. She tells him that Leomin is to ride back to her immediately, as he is to take over command of her armies. She instructs Lorik to find Dom as she summons him here. Lorik did as he was told and left. After making his way out and seeing all the guards he passed, he thought that Dom would be a fool to send his assassins to Shaik's palace. With his warrant unveiled, he made his way towards Dom's command tent. He passed all the soldiers, and he wondered if there would be a mutiny when Leomin pulled the reins from Dom's hands. He thought that Shaik had the strength of the whirlwind, and if Leomin's command were to be challenged, she could squash that easily. Still, though, this was unconventional and preparing for a battle that would begin at dawn. He thought to himself that she had waited too long, or perhaps this was all by design to throw off Corbolo Dom. If that were the case, it would be the boldest of risks. He made his way to the command tent, and 2 guards stepped out. He tells the pair that he brings word to Dom from Shaik. The guards disappeared, and Hanabara, what was her name? Hananaris? I totally mistyped
No,
that.
I think you're
Is it
right.
Hanaris?
I think so.
And then Hanaris came out and explained that Lorik would have to relinquish his warrant if he wanted to see the supreme commander of the apocalypse. Lorik let go of his sorcery and said that he was under her, Hanaris's protection. They then entered the command tent. Inside the spacious chamber was a raised dais opposite of the doorway. The headrest had Heganese symbols carved into them from the ancient city of Li Heng. Dominating the carvings was the raptor's talon, which hovered directly over the head of the Napan. Dom calls Lorik a fool for being too trusting, and that was to be expected, as it was assumed that they were allies, since they have spent a lot of time in this desert oasis together. Lorik didn't respond, but tells Dom that Shaik wishes to see the Napan at once. Corbolo said that he knew, and knew that Shaik wanted to strip him of his command. He asks if the Dog Slayers would just willingly accept Leomin as their commander. He asks Lorik if he observed his warriors on the way in. They appeared ready, did they not? If Leoman wants to take over, then he welcomes the attempt. Lorik asked if Corbolo was cool with betraying the apocalypse to win the war for the adjunct, just to preserve his precious position. Dom said that if Shaik insists, then so be it. Lorik said that Shaik wasn't the issue, but rather the whirlwind. He believes that the goddess's tolerance of Dom was at an end. Corbolo wonders if this would be the case, because then along with him, she would have to take out her own army. He asks Lorik if she would really do this. Lorik slowly cocked his head and said that he sees the flaw now, and that Dom was approaching this tactically, like any soldier would do. He explains that what Dom doesn't understand is that the whirlwind is indifferent to strategies and tactics. Dom relies on her common sense, but she doesn't have any because all she is rage. The battle tomorrow, whether she wins or loses, she does not care, as she desires destruction. The Nepan said, so what? Lorik saw sweat beading from the Nepan's forehead, and Corbolo continued to say that the whirlwind cannot touch him in this sanctified place. Lorik cut in and said that Dom called him a fool. The goddess will see Dom slain tonight, but he is too insignificant to her. Dom bolted forward and screamed, then who? Who was it? Was it Lorik? The High Mage spread his hands and said that he was merely the messenger. He is here as the voice of common sense. Lorik says that it's not who she will send, but rather who she would allow through that would take him out. Dom stared down at Lorik and then gestured, and made a gesture. The knife that plunged into his back was not fatal. Lorik's tightly bound defenses, his innermost layers of Karl Deerlin, defied the knife. The blow did knock him to his knees. He then pitched forward, almost at the feet of Dom. Already, he was ignored there. As Dom began bellowing orders, none were close enough to hear Lorik say, blood is the path, you foolish man, and you have opened it, you poor bastard.
Yeah, dude, this was like where I was like, what? Because I didn't pick up on any of the hints that you were talking about earlier in this chapter about Dom flipping sides. So that's where I was saying, like, I was kind of right. Like, somebody's betraying. I just thought it was going to be Leoman, not Corbolo, which surprised me.
That makes sense, yeah.
I still don't really like him.
No, I don't either. And I mean, that fucking title that he gives himself, like
The Supreme Commander or whatever.
Yeah, it just makes me think that he's more of a douche and a twat waffle, for sure. Yeah.
Thanks for the laugh.
Yeah, anytime. One of my first thoughts in this section is, again, Erickson's writing and description of Shaik's armor. It was really cool. Not going to summarize it. And, kind of very similar to Darist when he was describing his armor. I skipped it, but purely just for summary's sake.
Sure.
And then this part where convergence, right? Like Lorik explains that there will be a convergence tonight to Shaik. And I'm like, yes, we've got Pearl, we've got Lasara, we've got Cutter, Apsalar, Kalam, the Tis Leozans, maybe Cantilian, Karza, the Malazan army, potentially 2 of the Daragoth. Like, there's so many things,
You remember Celebrity Deathmatch?
Yep.
Let's get it on.
Let's get it on.
I'll allow it.
But I think it's funny because all of these people converging or ascendants converging, they all have different goals. And so I think we'll see many people from Shaik's camp get taken out.
I wonder who all we will lose, like just cumulatively, all sides.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm prepared for.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But I mean, we're drawing close. We only got a couple of short sections left. So this part where she wants Leoman to ride back and immediately take over Dom's command, I thought this was interesting, and I'm wondering if she's recognizing that Leoman, as cold iron as he is the only one who could help them win. Or is it just panic or fear?
I mean, I guess to me, panic and fear are kind of one and the same.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But yeah, definitely at minimum would say she's nervous.
Right. There's been several times throughout this chapter where she's just like, this is pointless. Why am I doing this? Do I have to do this? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I
Well, it
don't know.
seems a little late now to not have a battle.
Well, I think that Korob telling her his story maybe is what triggered Shaik to say, okay, Dom is the one who's fucking me over tonight. Maybe that's when she realized, and so that's why she wants Leoman to take over, because he can trust her. Or she can trust him.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you meant.
Just this thought that Lorik has about Leoman taking over for Dom, and he's like, maybe this is just strategy, and however unconventional, it wasn't help in preparing for the battle that would happen at dawn. And just that gave me anxiety, because it just makes me feel like time is quickly running out.
It is.
Like, I feel at this time the sun has set, but it's still like a little light out. And then, of course, we talked about the Supreme Commander Twat Waffle of the Apocalypse.
I can't wait till somebody joins Patreon and makes that their name.
Twat Waffle.
Supreme Commander Twat Waffle.
Yes, of the Apocalypse. You gotta have
yeah.
the of the.
Yeah. Jan's gonna change his name.
I mean, go for it, Jan. Do whatever you want to do. This next thought about Hanaris's protection. I didn't summarize this, but she asks what he needed protection from, as all the Malazans are on the other side, and all Lorik did was smile. And I'm not really sure why this hit me so hard to make a comment about it, but just something feels off about it, It just gives me the EBGBs.
Gives you the ick.
Gives me the ick.
Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe the Daragoth are going to show up.
Maybe. I don't know. Or it could just be that he gets stabbed at the end of the section. Maybe it's just kind of a very short foreshadowing moment.
Sure.
This part with the Raptor's Talon kind of dominating the carvings above, his chair or throne or whatever, DS. It was cool that it was a raptor, because I always had it in my mind that whenever they brought up Talon, it was some type of bird, which I guess I was close, just off by 65 million years.
Well, it still could. Because we have birds that are referred to as raptors, right?
Yeah.
Like what, a hawk or whatever? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not good with birds.
I feel like this confirms that he's the master of the Talons.
Sure, yeah. Which seems weird because he seems kind of like a dumbass a lot of the time, right?
Right. But also, again, the Talons fought the Claws. So why is he trying to get into the graces of Empress Lysine if they were fighting her assassin sorcery people? So I don't understand. Again, it just goes back to the fuck is happening, because people who should be enemies are now aligning, and vice versa.
I don't. Well, let's see what kind of answers we get here in these last two chapters. I don't know.
That's fair, but you think it's weird, right?
A little bit.
Why is he betraying Shaik when, if he's the master of the Talons, there's so much backstory that we just don't have. But this part where Lorik is talking about the Whirlwind's tolerance of Dom was at an end. And you remember in that chapter when Dom and Rouleau were talking, and Rouleau had this exact thought, and then Dom just called him panicky. And it seems like this may come true here, and we'll have to see. I think the Whirlwind is going to be a bit distracted to care about Dom, though.
I think I would agree with you.
But also, later on, Lorik says that it's not who she'll send, but rather who she would allow through. And my whole time, I thought, maybe this is Kalam's going to take him out. But
that's how I felt.
But remember, and this is the aha thing that I was pointing out earlier, the Whirlwind allowed Lestara and Pearl through. even though Pearl was hiding in Lasara's shadow, the whirlwind is a fragment of shadow, right? So I thought that was clever, right? Like, if you're part of shadow, you would probably recognize other people in shadow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think that, again, I mean, Pearl is there for the Talons. I think the whirlwind allowed Pearl in, and that's what Lorik meant by that.
I guess, yeah, we'll see. My first thought was still Kalam, though.
Which I think is what it's supposed to. But if you remember, after they got through the whirlwind, they fucked, right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, when, Lorik is bleeding out on this rug in front of Dom's Diaz, he's like, blood is the path, you foolish man, and you have opened it, you poor bastard. But I'm assuming it's maybe similar to when at the beginning of the book, or not the book, but the chapter when Gamut cut his palm, right? And Nil and Nether were able to unlock Raraku's power along with theirs. I'm assuming that's kind of how this is supposed to be. But Lorik is an elder race. So would that is that like drugs for Raraku? Like his blood is elder blood. Is that going to like allow Raraku to tap in more of itself or manifest itself better? And that's why he's like, you have opened it, you poor bastard.
I don't know. I did not think of anything like that. I don't have an answer.
Okay. All right. It's interesting because obviously the blood of the land is responding. The spirits of the land are responding to blood because that in essence is how they died, right? Spilt blood.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. What are we on, 9 here?
We are on 8.
Oh, 8. Whoops, sorry. Let me get back up a little. I thought I was evens. Gray Frog must leave your delicious company. Pellison looked at the demon and asked what had happened. Gray Frog said it was ominous, but an invitation from his brother. She asked if Lorik was in trouble. He replied saying there is darkness this night, and yet Mother's face is turned away. What comes cannot be chained. He told Pellison to stay here. His brother can come to no more harm this night, and his path is now clear. He is happy. He will eat humans. Pellison stumbled with her words a bit, but said she was happy for him. Grey Frog said no path is ever clear, even that of blood. Interesting that path of blood comes up again right there. Didn't think of that before. He would need to dip, dodge, duck, and dive, and hope for the best. There it was. I told you it was there. Pellison asked how long she should wait for him. He told her not to leave until the morning, calling her the one he was eager to marry, even though they wouldn't be able to properly breed. Now he was embarrassed and needed to leave quickly. She told him to go. Grey Frog said someone was approaching, potentially an ally, and to be friendly, and then he scampered off. Pellison wondered who could be coming. She heard someone who sounded exhausted on the trail. A moment later, a woman stumbled into view. Pellison called out to her. The woman called her Pellison younger. She knew only one person who called her that and asked the other woman if Heberick had sent her. She said yes, and that the assassins had tried to kill him, but ghosts protected Heberick. Pellison told the woman to slow down and catch her breath and asked if Heberick was still alive. She said he heals in his temple. Pellison offered her wine and told her not to tell her story until she had calmed down some.
This section was a little confusing to me. I'm not quite used to the way Grey Frog talks. I understand what is happening, but I don't get the depth of what he's saying.
Yeah, right. And that was kind of one of my thoughts here and now I'm kind of wondering if he knows Karsa's coming, but he says what comes cannot be chained. And I was wondering if you had any ideas what that could be, and now I'm wondering if that's referring to Karsa.
Or the Daregoth. How do you chain those fuckers?
A big fucking chain.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, maybe you can. This other part where Grey Frog is he's happy because he's going to eat humans, and I just he's going to show up and eat Dom. That would be pretty cool.
Maybe that's how Bidithal dies.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, dude,
great.
that would be better. Yeah, I'm
Right.
100% on board for that.
Yeah. Let's do it.
But yeah, those were kind of my two thoughts there on this short section.
Right. And now Scalara is with Fells and Younger, so maybe
Wait,
that is cause for concern, as you brought up earlier.
yeah, I don't think it's good. We'll see. But yeah, something about her, I don't trust her.
Okay. We'll have to see what that unveils then.
Yeah, I mean, I could be just wrong, but I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Well, I guess we're
Your
ready to
last
take it
one.
home. Yeah. Shadow-filled hollows rippled the hills that marked the northwest approach to the oasis. The night had come swiftly to Raraku, and the day's warmth was dissipating. On this night there would be frost. In one such hollow 4 riders stood motionless. They had seen the approaching warrior at a distance. They withdrew from the rider's path, as this rider was not who they were after. They were all glad for that. The rider was huge, riding a horse proportionate to his size. 1,000 ravaged souls trailed behind him, bound by ethereal chains. A sword of stone hung from his back, and it was possessed by twin spirits, raging with bloodthirst. In all, it was a nightmarish apparition. They listened as the rider passed and soon dwindled into the stone forest that lay ahead. Jarud said their path was now clear. The trespassers are camped nearby, among the army that they would battle with the dwellers of this oasis. He said that they shall strike them at dawn. Aeneas asked Jarud what was the apparition that just crossed their trail. Jarud said he didn't know, but it was a promise of death. Jarud said their horses are rested enough. The 4 Leosin rode up the slope until they reached a ridge and then shifted to ride southward. Jarud spared a last glance over his shoulder and saw that the rider had not turned around, had not spied them hiding in the hollow. He thought to himself how ignoble it was to hide, but sometimes that was what was required. He fought off a shiver, squinting at the edge of the stone forest. The apparition did not emerge. Jarud said, in the name of Osric, Lord of the Sky, thank you for that. And he and his brothers moved along the ridge. All right. So, first thought, the night had come swiftly to Raraku. And can I just say that throughout this chapter, the way that time moves is just beautiful. Like, we start, the sun is up, and now night had finally arrived. So throughout this whole chapter, there's like every section, it kind of points at how night is coming and the shadows. And it just gives you this very ominous feeling. And I really loved that throughout the chapter, you get this like slow fade into night.
Didn't think about that, but yeah, that is pretty cool.
So the night is on us, right? Like everything after this has to be what we have been hearing about this whole chapter. Like it's here.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me excited. This part that they say that this night would be frost. And I'm like, that's weird. Are we going to get some jag huts that show up? It's an interesting line and it feels very out of place to me.
Reading the chapter the first time, and obviously I didn't summarize the section, but I didn't pick up on it when I read it the second time, but it did stick out when you read it.
Mm-hmm.
Just, now. And yes, I agree. It does seem weird.
And out of place. So,
yeah.
Again, maybe that's another part of this convergence. Maybe Karza and the Jag Huts are going to show up. I don't know.
Yeah,
the Jag Huts that he met.
The one that's a tree?
Right.
He just uprooted that thing?
Yeah, or the one that he freed, Armella, or whatever her name was. Yeah.
Aramala?
Aramala, thank you. Yeah.
I was just the only one I could think of at the time was Reyes, but I didn't think it was going to be him. But yeah, good callback there.
Yeah, it's like PH, the one in the tree.
Oh, Fearless, that's kind of.
And then her brother, I don't remember the brother's name.
That was an Imus, wasn't it?
No, he hides in the chest.
Oh yeah, that's
right. Like Sir Karza wine from his chest, and it was always
That's
cold
right.
or something.
Yeah, I don't remember
Forgot
that
his
name. Good callback though.
Thanks. This next part where they're talking about the trespassers being camped nearby, it says among the army that they would battle with the dwellers of this oasis. And then later they're heading south. That's the Malazans. But I always thought that they were after Felazin Elder and Haborik for traveling through the Warren of Fire on the Salanda. So who is it among the Malazans that they're after?
I don't know.
Unless like I'm interpreting that wrong. But Shaik's camp is north. They're heading south. So I guess we'll
Unless they
have
just
to
hit that first. Yeah, I
read
don't
and
know.
find out. I don't know who that would be.
Or if it's something we just got wrong here, then let us know, I guess.
Gessler, Stormy, and Truth. They were there. They are trespassers. So my guess is when Bowden pushed Fellows off and Culp off, they weren't trespassers at that time
They're kind of off the radar.
because they did not get the gold, right? They don't have that gold hued skin. Bowden
Well,
thought he
yeah.
was fireproof, but clearly not, as we
Rough
read.
way to figure that out. They'd be
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. I mean, Felsen got away, right? I mean, that's what he was hired to do. And then lastly, this part where, Jarud looks over his shoulder and he fights off a shiver because he's squinting at the edge of the stone forest. And I wonder if this relates to your last section, Karza watching them as we see next.
I would think it does.
But hey, we're ready for the second shortest section in D&J's Epic Quest history.
Hey, I was thinking this has got to be at least my shortest section ever.
Yep.
Karsa glanced back at the riders. He had seen them long before they saw him, and the smile as they avoided his path. He had no problem with this, as there were plenty of enemies in the oasis, and no night lasts forever. My only thought on this section is it made me think of an Alien movie, Alien Covenant. And or maybe it was Prometheus. I don't remember which one. Maybe it might come up in both. But David is watching a movie while everybody's in like hypersleep.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line in the movie, something to the effect of that there's nothing in the desert and no man needs nothing. And that line just made me think of that no night lasts forever.
I
But
think
it was interesting that line made me, we're in a desert here. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I think it was at the beginning of Prometheus.
Like I said, it might have come up in both, but I think you're right. It is in Prometheus.
Where are we going next, Sarah? What's going to happen?
Dude,
What are your predictions?
It's going to be bad.
Just going to be bad. Just death,
gonna be
blood,
A bad
rising
time.
of souls and spirits. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get... we got to get this battle. I'm very confident we're going to get that, but I don't know what it's going to look like.
Right. Because it's so fragmented, right?
Yeah, I would say I'm like 95% confident Felsen Younger is going to die. My vote's going to be, I think Scalara is going to do it.
I don't know.
And chaos. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be a mess. I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, well, we got 49 pages of it. So, I mean, this chapter, it's night. So that tells me that shit's getting started. Karza is just getting back. It sounds like he's, he reached the Stone Glade. So I would imagine that he's probably going to meet up with Felsen and Scalara. So maybe he'll prevent her from killing her. Or if Karza will just go on his own way and start slashing and dicing people.
Yeah. I hope, I'm hoping Bitathal eats it.
Yep. Or Grey Frog does.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I don't know, dude. I think it's going to be crazy though.
Yeah. I would imagine. Well, I'm dying with anxiety to get started. So, but just a quick glance, it looks like these sections are fairly short outside of now this one. Okay. So, yeah, hopefully, hopefully that there's a good disbursement of short and long between the two of us.
Yeah, yeah. It's always fun when it's pretty even. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to read it tonight. Like, and I'm not probably going to get to it right after we get done, but I'm going to read it tonight for sure. So,
Sweet, dude. That's what I'm gonna go do.
well, I'll probably text you tomorrow morning then.
Sounds good. I've got this whole week off until Friday, so I will yeah, I'll probably get started on summaries as soon as I'm done.
Also, going to wish you a happy birthday now. This will come out obviously well past your birthday, but uh, we're close to it, 2 days before your birthday here. So happy birthday, man.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, this week might be a little tough for me. I'm only working Tuesday and Wednesday, but then Thursday and Friday, me and my dad are working on our basement. But I'll have the chapter read at least, and then we'll summarize it here, and hopefully we can get through it and get through the last chapter and epilogue here and move on.
Yep. Put her down. I definitely think that House of Chains and Dead House Gates are tied for number one.
I think Dead House Gates is still the top one, and we'll see what happens here in these next couple chapters. But I think I would maybe have Memories of Ice before House of Chains in my own ranking, but we'll see.
Fair enough. All right, sir. Well, great episode. Good discussion. We'll talk soon.
We'll talk soon. Have a good night, man.
You too, dude.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
DMJ's Epic Quest. DMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest. CMJ's Epic Quest.